So come on in. All right. So I'm Daryl.
Taylor.
Taylor.
Yes.
And
Mira.
Mira.
Sabrina.
Asha.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget all of y'all.
Between Clarksdale and Cleveland, on a quiet stretch of Highway 61 in the Mississippi Delta, lies a town called Mound Bayou, population 1,700. Mound Bayou has more churches than stoplights, more vacant stores than occupied ones, a place that appears forgotten. But locals, folks who grew up here and stayed, wear these special glasses that allow them to see the town as it used to be. Put those glasses on, and an overgrown lot transforms into the first Olympic-sized swimming pool available to Black Mississippians. The boarded-up brick building on the corner turns into a bustling bank that holds more Black wealth than anywhere else in the state. The crumbling circular drive across the street backs up with traffic into a hospital that delivered more than 100,000 Black babies. For the better part of a century, this unremarkable, hollowed-out town was an oasis of Black self-sufficiency in a state brimming with racial terror. From the Miseducation Podcast, this is a special report from Mound Bayou, Mississippi, an incredible, true, undertold story of Black uplift and ingenuity. I'm your host, Sabrina Duquesne. How did we find ourselves in the Mississippi Delta, half a world away from New York City? Let's start there.
Yeah, so I think it's safe to say you guys can credit me with that one.
Remember this guy? Taylor McGraw is the Bell's co-founder and executive director. He grew up in Mississippi, and after 10 years of big city living, he recently moved back south to Jackson, Mississippi. Last month, during midwinter break, Mira, Asha, and I went to visit him. He met us at the Memphis airport in his 2007 Toyota Highlander. We piled in and embarked on an 8-day journey that would take us through barbecue joints, civil rights museums, blues clubs, the cold halls of the Mississippi legislature, and the windy banks of the Mississippi River. Of all the places we stopped, Mound Bayou, this tiny dot on a map, left the biggest mark. The Mississippi Delta has been called the most southern place on Earth. An entirely flat alluvial floodplain that stretches 200 miles along the Mississippi River, the region has some of the richest soil in the world. Prior to the Civil War, Delta cotton plantations that enslaved thousands of African Americans helped make Mississippi one of the wealthiest states in the country. But today, it's the poorest. And the Delta, which is predominantly Black, is its poorest region. These facts, that the Delta is poor and flat and mainly Black, were pretty much all Mira, Asha, and I knew before the trip. There were some early moments where the three of us would look at each other like, where are we? We didn't know it at first, but we came to realize that we were in perhaps the most American place of all.
Okay, go.
Let me actually put on my seatbelt, y'all.
Bro.
We're safe people out here. It's Monday, February 20th. The air is warm and thick with humidity as we set out for the first stop in the Delta, Clarksdale. Considered ground zero for the nation's blues music, all over downtown, you'll find murals of legends like Muddy Waters and B.B. King. The apocryphal story of Robert Johnson selling his soul to the devil in exchange for learning the guitar took place just outside of Clarksdale, where Highway 61 and 49 intersect, the crossroads. We eat a big, delicious breakfast.
French toast with sausage.
You're gonna enjoy that. I used to eat that all the time, but once you get a certain age.
And down several refills of iced tea with a really cool education leader there named Sanford.
So my daughter's a Girl Scouts, and it's cookie season.
Okay, is she in the area right now? I've been waiting for
What you need?
Thin Mints. Please.
How many boxes?
Like 2.
You got cash on you right now? You got $10 on you right now?
Yes. Yeah.
I got some cookies in my car right now. I got you.
After breakfast, we stumble upon a blues musician from Milan, Italy, playing on a sidewalk bench.
This one is called I'm a Locomotive Papa and My Mama Was a Railroad Line.
He gives us a private concert.
Is this an original?
Yeah.
All right.
I ain't gonna settle down, either take a while. Believe I'm gonna get a ride on that 309. I ain't gonna settle down, neither take a while. Cause I'm a locomotive papa, my mama was the railroad line.
And we meet Bubba, the tourism director who happens to be good friends with one of our longtime supporters in New York City.
Tell EB I said hey.
EB, if you're listening, Bubba says hi. Then we're back in the Highlander, headed south down 61.
So we're driving past some fields right now, and we're heading to Mound Bayou to meet some folks.
We peer out the window at flocks of black birds soaring above in V formations.
A small town deep in the Mississippi Delta holds a story unlike any other.
Mira's reading aloud a magazine article about Mound Bayou.
Mound Bayou was founded in 1887 by former slaves to create a society that was unheard of at the time. The fertile, flat ground was the promised land that would show Black Mississippians what the future could be. Here they found independence, empowerment, and possibility.
Taylor's mom had recently seen a documentary screening about the history of Mound Bayou and tracked down the phone number of one of the guys in the film, whose family now runs an African American history museum in town. Here's Taylor.
So my mom gets this guy, Herman, on the phone and waves me over to talk to him. I tell Herman I've got some New Yorkers with me and that we'll be driving through the Delta the next day. He cuts me off and says we have to stop in Mound Bayou. It's mandatory. So that was it.
We reached Mound Bayou, but the GPS is useless.
Can you all search on your phone, maybe just like Mound Bayou Museum and see if...
Sure.
Or Kennedy High School?
Yeah.
So you told me to put Kennedy High School in and it's trying to take me to Brooklyn. That's not it.
We missed the museum on the first pass, but eventually find it. A brick wing of a school building that apparently has no students. We park in the gravel lot and walk inside.
This is Herman.
Herman, Taylor.
Hey, how you doing, Taylor?
Yeah.
Hey.
Nice to see you.
Thank you so much for
Hello,
hosting
everyone.
us here. Yeah, this is wonderful.
I'm Herman Johnson Jr.
Herman is a big man with a quick smile. He's a little taller than his brother Daryl. They're both in their 60s, but still poke fun at each other with a youthful spirit.
And that's he's in my way. That's
I'm finna move out the way.
Herman leads us into the main room and asks us how much time we have. We say we're in no hurry. He warns us that there's some drilling happening in the background. Then he claps his hands and begins. He tells us that the building we're in used to be a band hall for Mound Bayou's public high school, where Herman used to play the drums.
we had less per student in this district, but our academic performance was higher than the other districts in the state.
Back when Mound Bayou had its own school district, the Department of Education awarded it a successful rating. Rare for the Delta.
My brother tells a story, the one just left out of here. He tells a story when he had a paper route. He would deliver papers, and he couldn't just deliver the paper and leave. The lady would say, "Come on up here, son." Make him sit down and make him read that paper to her. You know, there was another guy who I got him on film telling me this story. He said that when he used to go, just be walking to school, and he would pass the service station where these old men would be sitting out there, and they would say, "Tell me the square root of whatever. Give me the second act of Macbeth." And he would have to say it, and this is how we grew up.
5 years ago, the county school board voted to close the high school and consolidate it with the next town over. Locals fought back. There were lawsuits and even a short-lived boycott, but the board went out. This theme of Mound Bayou building something great and having it taken away, it's in the DNA of the place.
There have been theses written about why was the academics performance so high in this city? Well, it goes back to the beginning of this town. This town was founded by men and women who were ex-enslaved people, mostly from a plantation out of Vicksburg that was owned by Joseph Davis, the elder brother, and his younger brother, Jefferson Davis. Does anybody know who Jefferson Davis is?
Not a pop quiz.
When the United States split between slave states and free states, and the Civil War happened, the Confederacy was, they had a president because they were a new country. And that president was Jefferson Davis, the brother of Joseph Davis. And the things that he did were different than other plantation owners. What he did was not only allow education and reading and writing, that he encouraged it. And so much so that the people on that plantation became very, very educated. They were architects, they were engineers, they were actually running the plantation. They had stores on the plantation.
He tells us that after the Civil War, Joseph Davis did something highly unusual. He sold his plantation to men he formerly enslaved, Ben Montgomery and Ben's son, Isaiah.
They sold it to him, and now the Montgomerys began running that plantation. They developed the highest grade of cotton in the world on that plantation. They became one of the top 3 planters in the country right out of slavery. And so they ran it for several years until Jefferson, after the war was over and what penalty he had to pay, came back, used the court system, took the plantation back from the Montgomerys, even though they had a deal, but of course it wasn't no deal.
Shortly thereafter, Ben Montgomery died. Isaiah, his son, wanted to continue his father's legacy.
So he had this dream of establishing a place where black people could be free. So he comes up to the Delta, and in the Delta they were building a railroad from Chicago to New Orleans. They had millions of acres. Montgomery meets the railroad people. They sell him 840 acres of swampland. This was mosquito infested with jaguars, bears, possums, everything. All kind of wildlife was on this place, and trees everywhere. But these guys were engineers, and they, like I said, they was architects, so they drained this swamp.
We've been standing in the same spot by the entrance this whole time. The walls in the fluorescent band hall turned museum are filled with pictures and artifacts, some of which are plainly racist. We'll get to that. Right now, we're all transfixed by Herman telling this story that he's probably told 1,000 times, but we've certainly never heard before. Okay, so it's the 1880s. Isaiah Montgomery and his crew have this wild swampland that they're trying to make habitable. They're doing grueling work during the day, but
they need to sleep somewhere. They come in like cutting wood all day long, and they need to sleep, so they get on a train and they sleep all the way to Memphis. They get off the train in Memphis and they sleep southbound, because Memphis is 100 miles, and they sleep southbound and come back down this way. The engineer is asking them every day, for a few days at least, where do I let you guys off? And they say, let us off where the 2 bayous converge with the Indian Mound. That was the geographical identification for this area, and that's where they let them off. And consequently, that became Mound Bayou, because they're saying it every day. That's where the name comes from. And they began to develop that land, cultivating it, and they get the highest grade of cotton in the world. So instead of this place having 1 cotton gin to gin that cotton, now you got to have 2, because what happens is because now we're getting the highest price in the world, other farmers from out of our boundaries, out of our area, are coming here to get their cotton ginned here. If they got the Mound Bayou label, they get a higher price. So they're bringing their cotton here. So now instead of 1 gin, we got to have 2 and 3 and 4. Next thing you know, we got 6. The economy, because of that, you got money coming into this place. And because we're self-contained and because of the fact that this state is dangerous, this state is inhospitable, this state is racist, and anywhere else that black people are living, it's not comfortable. So, but they can be comfortable when they come to Mound Bayou, so they're spending their money here when they can. And so as a result, people here are getting wealthy. And, you know, because of the gins, because of all of that, and it's a sanctuary city in this an oasis, like an oasis in the desert.
The legend of Mound Bayou grows steadily over the next few decades. In the early 1900s, President Theodore Roosevelt goes out on his now infamous bear hunting trip to Mississippi, in which he refuses to shoot a tied-up bear. Did y'all know that's where the name teddy bear comes from? Because I did not. When his train passes through Mound Bayou, he's so impressed by the beauty of the town that he decides to stop.
He gets off the back of the train, he makes a speech, and he says this place was the most beautiful place he has seen. So he calls it the Jewel of the Delta. Because along the line where the railroads were, on that side of the street was, like I said, all these big, beautiful houses, white picket fences, and all that type of stuff. So Mound Bayou was very, very beautiful at that time.
The Jewel of the Delta, the oasis in the desert, a remarkable place of black uplift, ingenuity, and self-sufficiency, eventually collides with the cruel realities of the Jim Crow South. Herman walks us over to a row of black and white photographs tacked up on tall vertical stands.
But the first black manufacturing venture in the country was this one right here. Mound Bayou Oil Mill and Manufacturing Company. There were 68 other oil mills in the state of Mississippi. But when they opened up this one that for black people, that black people had, that was too much for white people. And they boycotted this, not only in Mississippi, but nationwide, and then the boycott extended worldwide. And it didn't last long because of that. Even though when we realized they were boycotting it, they put a white face in front of it, you know, to run it, to pretend that, you know, somebody else was running other than black people. It was still in Mound Bayou. So they boycotted it until it shut down.
The more anecdotes Herman shares, the more Mound Bayou's exceptional, unrecognized history comes into focus.
What's remarkable about this town is the innovation that happened here that we still don't get credit for. Let me name a few of them. First of all, we had a bottling company on that side of town, and our ancestors tell us that bottling company was the first Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola started there. They can tell you that, you know, Coca-Cola ended up being Coca-Cola somewhere else, but the recipe and all that stuff came from here, okay? We don't have evidence of that other than what they tell us, okay? So I'm just make that clear. Also, we had a bakery on that side of town, and Wonder Bread. Y'all ever heard of Wonder Bread? Wonder Bread was started there. Now, we have a little bit more evidence. We don't have physical evidence of showing that Wonder Bread was started there, but Booker T. Washington wrote about that, and I think in 1912, and also I.T. Montgomery wrote about it way back then. So we got over 100 years of reflection that was Wonder Bread was started here. Across the street, next door, if y'all saw that, y'all probably didn't see it, but there's a hospital there that was started in 1942, Taborian Hospital, which was the first hospital that black people could walk through the front door in North Mississippi, right there. It was started by the Knights and Daughters of Tabor, which is a fraternal organization. And for 21 cents a year, which is your dues, you could go to that hospital. And it allows you so many surgeries, office visits, and that type of thing, and x-rays and blah, blah, blah. And they sign up 37,000 people for that. And that was the first HMO in the country. Developed out of here, right here, out of necessity. And like I said, 142 children were born there, 142,000 children, because a lot of people in North Mississippi, even though they never lived here, have Mound Bayou birth certificates because it was the only place they could go to a hospital.
As we're still processing the achievements of the Taborian Hospital, Herman starts to explain the collection of artifacts and images that surround us.
Let me tell you a little bit about this everything else over here. Now, this right here is about Mound Bayou. This row right here, and these on these black carts here.
Herman gestures to the part of the room where we spent the entire tour so far, the black and white photos of historic Mound Bayou houses and residents.
But everything else here in this room is from one donor. His name is Dr. Alvin Simpson. He was a psychology professor at Alcorn University.
Surrounding the historic Mound Bayou area of the room are cases upon cases filled with collectible figurines and posters, both historic and modern, depicting racist caricatures of black people. A Confederate flag is propped up on a stand, and back in the entryway, a mannequin in a KKK robe stands beside a wooden bench with the words, "Whites Only," painted across the front. Very heavy stuff, hard to look at.
And what we do when we give tours this place, we have a lot of children, a lot of kids, a lot of college students, and what we do is point out the fact that if you go through this collection, because he'd been collecting this since he was 4 years old, and the reason he started collecting it is that his mother worked at a white family's house, and they had these disparaging images of black people in their house. And at 4 years old, he was very interested in it. He just started collecting it. So he had this. He started collecting. He's retired now, probably in his 60s or 70s. But anyway, he had all this stuff. And if you go through it, you'll see a lot of disparaging, negative images of black people. I call it the social media of that day. And what we do is juxtapose what you see there, which I call the lie, to what happened here, which I call the truth. The truth is, while they were lying about us, we were here innovating. We were here being prosperous. Mound Bayou had more millionaires or more wealthy people, however you judge wealthy people at that time, than any other place in the state of Mississippi at one time, because of the nature of what was happening in this city. And so you juxtapose that, or you contrast the lie with the truth. Here's the truth. This is why the story of Mound Bayou is so important to the nation, because the narrative about in this nation of 30, 40, 50 million black people has been a negative one. But in truth, in reality, the positive, Mound Bayou reflects what actually happened here in Mound Bayou.
We let Herman's words sink in. These lies, the stereotypes, prejudices, misperceptions reinforced by these stories and images have had and continue to have devastating effects on black lives. And the truth is that our nation would not exist without the ingenuity, resilience, and sacrifices of black people. Standing here amidst the lies and the truth, facing it all squarely, listening to both the pride and pain in Herman's voice, we all begin to understand that Mound Bayou is not some small town that America has left behind. It's not some hidden away closet in America's attic. It's part of the foundation. The story of Mound Bayou is the story of America.
Hey listeners, Mira here. We've got more from Mound Bayou in just a second. This year, we have 15 high school student reporters hard at work reporting stories that will air later this spring. We make sure that all of our students are paid for their work and that they get to use professional equipment. As a small organization, these costs add up. While we're grateful to our foundation partners that help make our work possible, we also rely on listener support. We've made it really easy for new donors to pitch in. Just go to give.bellvoices.org and choose a one-time or monthly contribution. You can even donate in honor or in memory of someone. Once again, that's give.bellevoices.org. We're so appreciative of your support. Thank you. Now, back to Mound Bayou.
Herman has alluded to his upbringing in Mound Bayou several times. But wait, how did his family end up here?
So you'll see here, you say about my family.
We've exited the band hall with its yellow walls and fluorescent lights and walked through the hallway where some guys are doing construction to the adjoining former choir room. Its walls are painted black and the floor is carpeted, giving it the feel of an intimate black box theater. Herman brings us over to a photo album.
Well, this is my father. My father is from Winsboro, Louisiana. When he was a little boy, his mother found out that she had a sister here, that long-lost sister. So she comes over and visits her long-lost sister, and they reestablish their relationship. She goes back to Louisiana and tells my father, who was the youngest of 12, 13 children, and she tells him, she said, there is this place in Mississippi, there's this place called Mound Bayou where black people are running everything, which was just unheard of. Black people are the sheriff, they are this, they are that, da-da-da. And so my father started fantasizing about coming to Mound Bayou. So he comes to visit his aunt. And then he meets somebody after several different visits. He meets somebody, they get married. He finishes his education. When he leaves Southern University, he's getting ready to go. They ask him, where you going? He said, well, I'm going to go back to Mound Bayou. I'm going to grab my wife and we're going to go to Chicago. I'm going to find a job. Or maybe New York. I'm going to find a job. His instructor down there told him, said, well, okay, so look, before you do all of that, when you do all of that, when you get to Mound Bayou, take this letter and hand it to T.R.M. Howard. He did. He had met T.R.M. Howard before, so he comes here and he hands it to T.R.M. Howard. T.R.M. Howard says, I got a job for you. And he gives him a job at Magnolia Mutual Life Insurance. And that job, and the reason that job was even vacant, because Medgar Evers had just left.
Yes, the Medgar Evers.
T.R.M. Howard mentored Medgar Evers, taught him the civil rights business, sent him out to take over the NAACP. And just so happened my father gets here at that time, and he takes over for Medgar Evers.
As the NAACP's Mississippi Field Secretary, Medgar quickly became a leading figure in the civil rights movement, organizing voter registration drives, boycotts of racist businesses, and protests against segregated beaches. Herman leads us over to a cubicle-shaped display with photos of Medgar Evers and his mentor T.R.M. Howard hanging from the walls. In the center is an elegant wooden desk with an old typewriter sitting on top.
When my father goes into that office, this was there. So this was Medgar's stuff. So he just takes this with us and takes it home. So I ended up, using this. This is what I typed all my reports on growing up. But Medgar was not famous as I was growing up. But anyway, once he became famous, we set it aside and said, when we get a museum, we'll put it there, blah, blah, blah. And that's why it's there.
After about an hour of walking around the exhibition, Herman's brother Daryl rejoins us, and right behind him is their father, Herman Sr., the man who took over Medgar Evers' insurance job in the 1950s. He's 93 now, tall, slim, and sharp. As we make our way back into the band room, where the tour started, Daryl has some parting words about the images and artifacts that line the walls of the room, the quote-unquote lies displayed there.
And a lot of people in life try to live above, even when they see it, to say, oh, I don't see that. And when they see things, we learn to live to say to ourselves, we don't see it. And it was there in plain sight. And so that's why we want to take it and say, you've been seeing this. You've seen this. You've seen all of this. This is not something, but now let's just look at it and see what has been infecting our world.
What Daryl is insisting, what this whole museum is insisting, is that we sit with the truly ugly history and legacy of our nation's origins, that we don't look away. Then Herman Sr. chimes in.
See what they're trying to say? It's the governor of Florida trying to destroy all that, so we won't see it.
Right.
He don't want us to even read about it in our history book. He's trying to destroy the history book so we can learn about our history. I taught school in 1956 over here in Cleveland.
Wow.
And after 3 or 4 years, the superintendent had my best friend, who was the principal, to fire me because I was telling my students that they needed to bring in black history, learn about black people, and they fired me for that. Mm-hmm. And I'm just saying, that's been going on a long time, and they still trying to do it. Mm-hmm. But
still today.
But we make it.
But one thing about Cleveland is that was the last school district in this country, not just the state, to desegregate.
And my mom taught there as a symbol of integration, a fake integration. They got her, she was one of the best school teachers from the black school, and had her move to the white school. That was a symbol of integration. But what they did is got the best black teachers, put them over in the white school, and they got the worst white teachers, put them over in the black school. That's not integration.
And the white teachers were gone within before the year was over.
Yeah, they weren't even there when the school year was over. Y'all, we could talk to y'all all day.
We're going to have to come back.
It's an understatement to say that we've been blown away by this tour of the Mound Bayou Museum of African American History and Culture. We step back out into the warm Delta afternoon, and the 3 men follow us outside with suggestions on where to eat lunch. It's hard to leave, because we keep getting into these new side conversations.
Opportunity to point it out. Across the street right there, we see where that facade is?
Yeah.
That was the Green Parrot Inn. I told you about T.R.M. Howard.
Yeah.
That was the Green Parrot Inn right there. Next to that was the Olympic-sized swimming pool. Yeah. First Olympic-sized swimming pool for black people in the state of Mississippi, right there. Next to that was the zoo. I think it was probably the first zoo in the state of Mississippi.
Was the zoo next there? Or the zoo this way?
Zoo was over to the left.
The zoo was
over there?
To the left.
Okay, well, everybody that I've been telling, that zoo was right there.
Well, they gonna miss the zoo.
Okay, so I've been telling everybody the zoo
was
right there.
The zoo, man.
So I've been lying the whole time.
Daryl pulls up a photo on his phone of their childhood house, where their father still lives. Herman tells me that I look like a relative of a prominent Mound Bayou family, the Woods. So, to any Woods out there, I might be your long-lost cousin. Finally, because we have a long drive ahead and the sun is getting lower, we pull ourselves away and get back in the car. We crank on the AC and pull out our sunglasses. Staring out the window at the overgrown concrete lot across the street, I can almost see the glistening blues of a swimming pool and hear the laughter of a thriving community. Gravel crunches under the tires. We're off in search of lunch. Till next time, Mound Bayou. A week after our trip, when we got back into the city, Mira, Asha, and I went to a screening of the new movie, Till. Mound Bayou appears in the movie as a safe haven where Emmett's mother, Mamie, resides while in Mississippi for her son's trial. There was a strange time warp that happened as we sat there peering up at that big screen, seeing a wholly different Mound Bayou than the one we'd just visited a few days ago. One with the big white houses and swimming pools that Herman told us about. It felt like a collision of then and now. A reminder that, in the words of Mississippi writer William Faulkner, the past is never dead. It's not even past. That's it for today's episode. A special report from Mound Bayou. If you want to learn more about the museum, maybe even schedule a visit, go to moundbayoumuseum.com. Bayou is spelled B-A-Y-O-U. While you're there, please consider making a donation. Herman has big plans for the space and wants to make sure folks from all over get a chance to experience it. Our deepest gratitude goes to the Johnson family. Herman Jr., Daryl and Herman Sr., thank you for sharing your time, your laughter, and your stories. This was an educational experience of a lifetime. We won't forget it. Special thanks to Taylor's mom, Mama Joanne, for encouraging us to visit Mound Bayou, and thanks to all the friendly folks we met on our journey through Mississippi. Miseducation is a production of The Bell. To learn more, visit our website, bellvoices.org, which just got a little makeover. Check it out. And if you're not doing so already, make sure to follow us at MisEducationPod on Instagram and Twitter. This episode was a true team effort. Taylor McGraw, Mira Gordon, Asha Khan, and me, Sabrina Duquesne, all helped record the tape, write the script, and mix the audio. Music from Blue Dot Sessions, Lens Lewis, and our man, Alessandro Ponti. If you're ever in Milan, be sure to look him up. He was amazing. Our work is made possible in part by the Summerfield Foundation, the Pinkerton Foundation, and FJC. Special thanks to Hindenburg Systems. I'm your host, Sabrina Duquesne. Catch you next time.